Hello everyone and welcome to another Muffin video. Before we dive in here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell and drop a like on the video too if you're enjoying the content. Don't forget as well to join our Discord server if you're not already there. We've also activated our channel membership, which comes with all kinds of perks from video shoutouts to personalized help and more, so check that out if you're interested in joining. And as well, from now on, all comments on every video will be automatically entered into our weekly giveaways. Winners will be randomly selected by our bot and announced every Monday. So good luck and let's get this started. So we've finally done it again, another trial clear here on trial T14 risk mode. That is the most recent trial, the Desert Bane Pursuit, which was quite an interesting trial battle. Once again, we see the devs trying out new and interesting approaches to these trial fights and mechanics, and this was a lot of fun. It was definitely a challenge. Maybe not the hardest trial we've ever fought, but I really liked how the mechanics worked. So, as always, let's first take a look at the in-game description of the boss skills, and then we're going to jump in and take a look at the clear video so we can understand how exactly this clear was able to be accomplished. So let's take a look at these skills. So, Bane of Lures. As you can see, I'm making some changes to my build. Don't look at this actual accuracy over here. So, Bane of Lures. How this boss works, basically it has this Horn of Bane mechanic. The Bane of Lures passively gains 2 points of Power of Bane every 1 second. After the Horns of Calamity are destroyed, the Power of Bane is reset and starts accumulating again. So how does this work? Basically, the boss has this mechanic, this resource that it's tracking called Power of Bane, and it constantly accumulates over time, and there are other mechanics that make it accumulate faster, but ultimately it's trackable via an in-game UI, which you will see when we take a look at the battle. And essentially you have to manage these stacks because they give additional effects to a lot of the other skills the boss does, some of which can make them very, very deadly. So this fight is all about managing the 2 horns. So the boss actually has 3 targets. You have the main body and each of the horns, and the DPS has to balance attacking the horns and attacking the main body, because in order to reset the stacks of Power of Bane, you're going to have to destroy one of its 2 horns. But if you destroy them too early, then you're not going to be able to reset stacks after the second horn is gone, so then it's just a DPS race. So this is actually a very interesting fight. Now let's take a look at the other mechanics, and trust me, this is all going to make a lot of sense once you actually see the fight in action. So the next ability here, Ascension. After sticking the head in the sand and charging up, forcefully strike the current target, dealing 30,000% damage. Power of Bane. So this is this buff we talked about. When the Power of Bane reaches 200 stacks, the damage is increased by 50%, plus it inflicts deep wound effect for 15 seconds, dealing additional damage every 2 seconds. So this is a tank buster ability, and the tank will need to definitely pop their shield for this, otherwise it will be the easiest one-shot ever. This deals a lot of damage even for a fully geared tank. This is a lot of damage, so you do need to pop your shield for this. And this additional effect with high Power of Bane makes it very, very hard hitting. Next up we have the Calamity Sandstorm. So Calamity Sandstorm, the boss opens up its mouth to spew at enemies, dealing a large amount of damage, plus when the Power of Bane is above 50, it inflicts this Calamity Sandstorm effect, which deals 400% damage and reduces accuracy. So this is something that can be cleansed. Next up we have the Great Earthquake. So you can see here, this deals a large percent of damage to all targets, which needs the healer to definitely use a big heal on this ability, as it deals a lot of damage. Plus when the 350 stacks of this Power of Bane, it also summons 2 additional adds, these drakes, which deal a lot of damage to the tank and can one-shot your DPS if they're not taunted. And because 2 of them spawn, if the tank pops the taunt at the wrong time and only gets 1 of the 2 adds, this can actually be a reason your DPS will die in the fight, and it did happen to us a few times before we ended up getting the kill. So do keep it in mind that there are 2 adds that spawn, and if the tank taunts at the wrong time and only grabs 1 of the adds, the other add will go free and potentially kill your DPS or healer. Born of Frenzy, fully awaken and unleash the Power of Bane, the power to destroy everything. That's all you need to know. Very, very bad. Adventurer's Plight is the same as the last few bosses, where over time the damage resist of the boss will increase and the amount of healing you will receive decreases. And then this has a 605-second enrage, but because of the power of Bane mechanic here, you'll never reach this countdown here, because after you destroy both horns, the power of Bane just continues to stack, and eventually you're just going to get overwhelmed by the damage output. So to understand how this all comes together, let's jump in and take a look at the fight and see how it actually works in practice. So let me transition over here. Okay, and let's take a look at this fight together and see how it actually works in action. So as you can see here, when you start the fight, the first thing you'll notice is the DPS, myself and Natasha, are actually holding on to our awakening and we're not using them right away. The reason is one of his abilities, which I'll show when it comes up, requires you to break a shield. So there's the Great Earthquake. You can see a huge amount of party damage. The healer is using a big heal to protect us from this. But we're saving the Awakening. You'll see when he uses the ability here that you need to save your Awakening 4 to deal big damage to break the shield and stop him from gaining both a lot of power of Bane stacks and as well dealing damage. So here you go. Calamity Deluge. Boom. Once you see this, the shield here, you should already be targeting the body and using your Awakening to deal a huge amount of damage to make that go away as fast as possible. Even that time it took us is already, like, okay, but ideally you want it gone faster. That's why, like, classes with a huge burst damage, like mages, for example, will be very, very useful in this fight, because the mage will pretty much one-shot that shield instantly. But for us, even with our relatively high combat power, it still took us a while to break that shield off. So as you can see here, I'm switching back to targeting the horn. So the way we're doing this is we're basically swapping back and forth to the horn. We're trying to get the horn to as low HP as possible, while also getting in damage on the body to reduce the boss's HP. So the horn and the body do have separate HP pools. But so I'm on the horn and Natasha's on the body, and depending on your DPS makeup, you may choose this approach or maybe slightly different approaches. But generally the boss uses 2 abilities, and then the third ability will be the Calamity Deluge, which requires you to use your cooldowns and deal a big amount of damage to break the shield and prevent the boss from building lots of stacks. So ideally, depending on your DPS output, you're going to want to have 3 Calamity Deluges go by before breaking the first horn, depending on how much. So this UI you can see here is what tracks the power of Bane. And as this fills up, the damage of all of his abilities start to go up and gain additional effects. So we're getting the horn, as you can see here, low. We switch to the body again for this ability and switch back. And now, instead of letting the 4th one hit, we're actually going to switch back to the horn and just basically kill it at this point. So we're gonna focus the horn and kill it as soon as we can. And when you kill the horns, they don't regenerate or anything. And keep in mind, once you kill both horns, you have no more way of resetting this. That's why I called it a bit of a DPS check, because once you just destroy both horns, you then have no way to clear it anymore, and you basically have to kill the boss before it overwhelms you. So as you can see here, we're getting the horn low. He starts casting this. We break the horn. And as you can see here, one little tip that's very, very important. If you break the horn while his ability with the shield is active, it'll interrupt that ability the same as if you targeted him to break the shield. So that's one thing you can do for a little optimization, is break the horn right as he's casting that ability, and you'll get like a free interrupt to that ability without having to swap to the body. And now, as you can see here, I actually saved my burst, which now I can use on the body to do a bit more damage to his HP pool, before eventually then swapping back to the other horn and continuing the process and dropping the second horn's HP down and getting it ready again for the same process all over. So this is the thing, it's about balancing DPS between the body and the horns to keep the horns low enough so that you can break it when you need to in order to reset these stacks of power of Bane. You can see here we swap to the body, back here, and the best way to sort of process this fight is to look at it in duration of shield. So you'll say, okay, we'll break the horn on the 3rd shield, or if you have enough DPS, you'll say maybe we'll break the horn on the 4th shield, and etc. And that's how you'll judge this fight. So you try to keep the horn alive as long as possible before you start getting overwhelmed by the additional damage output from having high power of Bane. So in the first attempts, we were getting to like 3 shields before we had to break the horn, and then on this clear we managed to push it to 4 shields before we had to break the horn. So you see here, swap to the main body, This one takes a little while, which is not ideal. You really want to go faster than that, but we still got it down. And then we're continuing the process, still getting the horn down. Split DPS, 1 DPS. Natasha is focused on the main body, and I'm focused on the horn. And from a tank and healer perspective, it's really just about understanding the two abilities that are going out in between the shield abilities, which are dealing either AoE damage or single target damage to the tank. So the tank's popping their shield and taunting as well when the ads pop out, as you can see the 2 ads down there. And it's all about managing that. And so here we are once again, we're getting pretty high. We're getting pretty high on Power of Bane, so we're going to swap back to this horn in a second here, and we're going to try to kill it as soon as possible now because we're almost full. So now we're going to get him down. Since the boss is kind of low HP, we're not going to wait for the shield ability. We're just going to kill it right away because we're at 40% HP on the main boss. So now it's reset, and now we have no more way to reset the Power of Bane, so our only option now is to just go full on DPS and deal as much as possible. Now, one very useful tip I can give you for a healer is whenever the boss has, I'll go back for a second, whenever the boss has the shield ability, as soon as the shield goes away, the healer needs to cleanse right now. Don't cleanse while the shield is up. Cleanse as soon as the shield goes down, and then you will reduce the gain of Power of Bane a lot. So after the shield ability, the healer needs to cleanse, and that way you'll get the optimal reduction of not ultimate, they'll stop the regeneration of Power of Bane most effectively. So use your purification right after the shield disappears, not before. So for the rest of the fight, you don't have the horns anymore, so you just fully focus the body, still saving Awakening for the Calamity Deluges in order to break that shield when they show up, but otherwise just focusing, doing full damage here, and the tank using shield whenever the tank needs to use shield, and the healer keeping an eye on the skills coming out to be ready to use the big healing for any of the big AoE damage sources. Splitting the sky here does, you can look, like this is, you can see, this was with shield. That was with shield, and it just one-shot a fully geared tank and popped his turning point. So, you know what, like this is serious damage. So that's why this fight is no joke. But anyway, we're getting low HP here. Great Annihilation. Sometimes this, you have to be aware that actually sometimes the skill names change a little bit. So you just have to be aware of the animations and what abilities the boss is using, so you could be prepared to use the right abilities if you're a healer or tank. Splitting the sky again, that's the tank. The tank buster you can see here did a little bit less damage that time. So now I'm going to pop my Awakening again for the shield, and we're 10%, 9%, bursting it down the last few percentages here. And then 5%, we're almost there. 4, 3, 2, 1, and we got the clear. So this fight is all about DPS splitting between the body and the horn, keeping the horn low, breaking it depending on the amount of shields you're able to sustain before your Power of Bane stacks gets too high, and that's ultimately how you approach this fight. And as you can see here, we got the first clear pop-up for getting the first clear, and that was a first global clear as well. Very fun fight, very interesting mechanics, and as well, this fight in the Echo of War version is the same, but even harder. So that should be something really, really fun to look forward to. There's an added mechanic, or a couple added mechanics there for that fight. But there you have it, that is a complete understanding of the T14 fight, and yeah. Hope you found this helpful. If you have any more questions, because I know this fight is one of those things, to be honest with you, when I explain it, I feel like as a type of fight, it'll be a lot easier once you actually try it for yourself. But just jump in, do some attempts. I'd say after it unlocks, you probably will need a few days before you get enough power to viably clear it. But once you do, it is a very fun fight. And yeah, so good luck. Hope you get your kills quickly when you get to your progression that you're ready to take on T14. So if you have any more questions, like I said, leave it in the comments down below. And yeah, good luck to everyone with your clears, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.